This is Jedi. Well, this is my first video that's going to be both being on YouTube and live video. Well, just to address to the live video people, this was a question from MindTaker. MindTaker asked me, well actually it's MindTaker from YouTube, okay? He asked me that, why did the Neo Geo CD fail? Well, before I can cover the failure of the Neo Geo CD system, I have to cover the beginning of the SNK Neo Geo. Well, all the way back in 1990, SNK released its own arcade platform called the Neo Geo MVS, stood for Multi-Video System, which means you can hook up multiple games into one arcade cabinet. You can have up to 2, 4, 6 games at a time within one cabinet. A year later, they came out with the Neo Geo Advanced Entertainment System, or the home card system as we know it. And this system was very, very expensive, even for its time. This system debuted at $500. Take into account how much this would be today. Take into account how much inflation it would be today. This thing will probably retail for about $800 with the inflation of these prices of today. Hell, even the PS3 came out, which was $600. So this one, even be with the inflation, this one cost more than the PlayStation 3. And as you guessed, the games cost a lot too. The games cost about $300 a piece because they cost so much to make. And as you know, home cartridges are cost a hell of a lot more money to make than CDs. So SNK wasn't really making any money out of these home cartridges. And plus, this system didn't really brought out to the masses. This system had a very, very cult-like audience, or hardcore gamer audience. So, in an effort to span out to more mainstream and casual gamers, they decided to release a CD format to make the system cheaper and the games cheaper, so they can get more mainstream gamer known. Okay, they wanted to have more mainstream gamers playing their system so they can make more money. But this sounds like a good idea, but the only problem is that the Neo Geo CDs were unreliable. They would break within a year or two of using them. The lens would give out on them. And another gripe with the Neo Geo CD system was that the fact that you got a different kind of controller. You got this controller. This controller is not very good for using for fighting games because the button layout is shitty. Because you have the weak. Usually with SNK Neo Geo is really known for its fighting games. It's known for games like SVC Chaos, Art of Fighting, King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, Last Blade, things like that. And this was horrible with fighting games. Because usually, by default, you have the weak things being the A and B button, which means that you have the strong things right up here. So the button layout was really, really bad. And also the D-pad didn't really help either. The D-pad was like a huge circle. So you really had no kind of indentation of where the buttons were. So it made the fighting, pulling off moves really, really, really difficult. Because with the home systems, you got this. Hell of a lot better. It's more ideal for playing arcade games because you have the joystick right here and then you have your four hands like that. And that's how you would control like that. Hell of a lot better. You can use this on the Neo Geo CD, however. They are interchangeable. They do take the same plug. And another reason why the Neo Geo CD failed was that the fact that they had to cut corners with the graphics. Some of the graphics were scaled down in the Neo Geo CD systems. Since, unable to fit all the graphics onto a CD, they had to cut out some of the animations and things like that. And the major gripe with the Neo Geo CD system was the loading times. You'd be sitting there waiting about a minute or two for the loading. that is way too fucking long to load. The longest that a load time should be is 30 seconds. I don't care what the fuck you're trying to load. And last but not least, poor marketing. Poor marketing will kill a video game console. You can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, they ain't gonna buy it. That's the reason why the Sega Saturn in the United States failed. Sega Saturn did awesome in Japan. Sega Saturn and PlayStation were neck and neck. But since we didn't know how to market the Sega Saturn was a failure here. I mean, most people didn't even know that the Neo Geo CD even existed. Most people were playing the Sega Saturn, Sony PlayStation. Most mainstream gamers, if you ask them what the Neo Geo CD was, they'll just give you a blank stare like this. They won't know what the fuck you're talking about. They might have heard of it, but they've never played it. So I think it's something that's the main reason why the Neo Geo CD failed, because it didn't appeal to the masses. It was a very cult-like gaming audience. So, but despite all that, even though the Neo Geo CD discontinued around 1998 or so, one good thing that came out of the Neo Geo CD systems was the remixed music. The remixed music in the games were awesome. The King of Fighters remix music was memorable. Nothing can take that away. And many ports were derived off the Neo Geo CD games, such as the Sega Saturn ports like Fatal Fury 3, King of Fighters 95, 96, 97, hell, even Samurai Showdown 3. But even though after the Neo Geo CD system went out, the home system still lasted 5 more years. It finally got discontinued in 2004, so this thing lasted for 14 years, outlasting the Nintendo Game Boy. So love it or hate it, this SNK Neo Geo has definitely been an inspirational system. It's one of my personal favorites because I grew up playing Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, things like that. So let's give this thing a good moment of silence. SNK Neo Geo, you will never be forgotten, dear friend. Okay. And look out for my next crappy review. I'm working on it. It's going to take a while. It's going to be a different one. One that you wouldn't expect. So this is Jedi signing off.